Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Paddocast, and social media is lit up with ban talk, and the main culprit is called Shot. And let's dive into both sides of the convo, as it's bubbled up enough now that Riot has had to respond. And we can kick it off with when I was in Vegas. I interviewed a lot of the top players, and universally, this was their response.
I'd start with banning called shot.
Ban called shot.
I think I would just remove called shot from the game completely.
I think I'm going to answer what everyone else has said. Ban called shot.
So why called shot? Why is called shot being targeted? It's a 0 cost, 1 power card that basically says you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, you take one, you recycle another one, and really what it does is allows you to create consistency throughout your deck and filter. Now the cost is mainly supposed to be in the power. 2 power to play it the first time, to repeat it and get the maximum value out of it. 2 power usually is a lot, especially early in a game. And, you know, it's understandable that the card is loved because drawing cards is fun. Cycling through your deck is fun. It feels like a combo deck in a world where a lot of the stuff from Origins was very straightforward and you're not comboing too crazily. The most thing you're doing is stack deck, or you got, you know, some merchants that are allowing you to draw, discard, that kind of stuff. But it creates consistency. It's led to the advent of the Miracle Draven decks, the Miracle Silver decks, the Miracle Everything decks, because it's another thing on top of the other cast of things within the Chaos domain that you basically get to draw and filter through your deck. And so you get to do lots of shenanigan things and more combo things that just haven't really been felt in the game. And one of the quotes I think that first came out as the Miracle decks were starting to emerge was that the opponent response was usually like, "You're playing a different game than me." And I think that is why called shot is also kind of getting the ire here. And we can talk about like what kind of the problems are. Now, the cost is supposed to be power, but like Kaisa, we have seen that anything that kind of cheats power is really strong. Kaisa in Origins was really strong because her spells, she could, you know, Falling Star became only 1 power and it didn't deramp you as much. And so the power scaling with just that 1 power that you would save off of casting instead of the 2 power really ramped it up. And so what we're seeing with called shot is that there's just so many ways to cheat it out. And whether it's Alon ZQ with his Ezreal deck where he's playing 3 Seals of Discord, whether it's just Ezreal itself, with Ezreal basically says that not only does he come into play and he discards 1 and draws you 2, but he also makes it so that your optional costs cost either 1 less energy or 1 less power, which for called shot, since there's no energy cost, you're just saving that power. And so you get a free called shot just by having an Ezreal in your base. And so all these power costs are being cheated. And then on top of that, it's not just, you know, you have called shot, but you have Fizz that can bring back called shot. You have other ways that we're seeing that cards are being drawn between Treasure Trove and Detonate now, and scrap heats for when you're discarding from the Ezreal. And so players are just drawing your whole deck throughout the course of a game. So you're going to see every answer that you have. You can play specific one-offs for matchups or whatever you need, and you're going to see it because you're drawing some cards in part because of called shot. And so it's just kind of the confluence of all of these things, called shot being in there, that are leading it to be a little bit too much. And when I say too much, I also mean it from a time factor. So, you know, we've had things like stack deck in Origins where you get to look at the top 3 and you pick one, but because called shot is this card that you can, because it costs 0 pretty much functionally in a lot of these decks with Seals and Ezreal and that kind of stuff, players are casting it all the time and they're bringing it back with Fizz. So you're seeing it like 3 to 5 to 6 times a game or something. And so every time they cast the spell, they're making 2 decision points where they're taking the 2 cards and they're deciding which one. They're taking 2 cards, they're deciding which one. And notoriously, Riftbound right now has a problem in tournaments where the tournaments just take a long time. If you have too many rounds in a day, you're playing 14 hours straight of competitive Riftbound, and then it's going on again. In Vegas, it ran so long they had to close down the venue, so you didn't even get to see the top 8. When the top 8 started, the venue was shutting down. They're clearing out the tables. They're kicking everybody out. We're watching it off a hotel screen. We're not actually in the stadium cheering on the players or celebrating the players. The players are playing in an empty exhibition hall, basically. And it looks, you know, you have the stream that makes it feel different, but like that is kind of a bummer because, and so not that it's all to blame on called shot. Yes, players should be able to play faster. people should know their decks better. You should be able to make decisions faster. But the game just takes a long time, and Called Shot, just on top of the many things that are, its power level and cheating its cost, is the fact that it just makes the games take long. So all that said, Riot's been pretty adamant about not having bans, especially early on. They're very cautious with it. They don't want to do errata. Like they've talked about, like if a ban, it really has to be something that is really poking people in the eye. Draven's had a ton of success, and the Challenger TCG boys, they actually did a video on and basically did their suggestions for bans, or at least one of their members, and a few of them have kind of gathered together and said things. Now they're all aligned on Called Shot being banned, but they also brought up Fight or Flight, they brought up Rebuke, they brought up Aurora, Stellacorn Herder, and Reaver's Row. Now, Aurora and Stellacorn Herder they're kind of their own archetypes. They're far away. Stellacorn Herder just because you can get it out and draw a bunch of cards off of it early without a lot of response opportunities, especially with like Aurelia and decks like that. And Aurora is just a very strong card. We saw Anton run his Master Yi up the chain before they got second place in Houston. Now they got best of here in Vegas and might have made a top 8 had they won a few games down the line. So understandable why Aurora is just a very strong card, and it feels like it's a couple sets ahead card that was released in the first set, and it feels kind of overtuned. But Reaver's Row, Rebuke, Fight or Flight are really target the fact that Draven just draws free cards off of these. Reaver's Row, because you can, if your opponent backs off their unit, that counts as a combat, you get to draw a card. Fight or Flight just pushes them, you draw a card, bounce their big thing to their hand or unit off the board. When you go and fight them, draw a card. And so it's kind of warped the entire way that you're playing Riftbound in a lot of these tournaments. Instead of standard capture things, you're having to factor for all these cards, which cost wise, the ability to cheat out, the ability to hide onto battlefields, makes them very oppressive. I don't necessarily agree that all these cards should be banned. I think that there are definitely culprits and ways that you could go about it. I think if you hit all these cards, especially in Chaos, I think you take away a lot of the things that make Chaos. And I think you also, like, I don't think you should hit one color with 3 bans, basically. The other stuff I can kind of see, Silken Rat, I don't know, like that, but that's a different conversation. We're talking just about Called Shot, and I think that if you look at all those things, that seems kind of fair criticisms of the card in itself. But it goes further because Riot has seen all this conversation happening over social media, and Dave Guskin, entered the chat, and he made a post on X, and basically he said that they're beginning to have discussions. They saw the results in Vegas, in Bologna, and other events. They're starting to look at it seriously and talk about what a ban list might look like. But they've also said that they are not going to do any changes before a big major event, which China has a big event coming up. So there is an Unleashed rules update at the end of March. And so they've kind of pointed to, if they're going to touch anything or we're going to get an update on a ban list, is probably going to come around then, because there are probably things in Unleashed that will be affected or affect the ideas of what is bannable in the current meta. And they'll probably take a look at that and think about that. Now, on top of that, speaking of like China and not having bans there, China actually released its own like kind of side event where they're going to ban 8 legends basically and say, hey, bring stuff that's outside of that. Now, poor Ornn got banned. I don't know why Ornn's getting targeted here. I don't know what's going on. But, I think there's a lot of really strong decks that are still left out there. But I would be interested to see what gets played in an environment where you are going to ban 8 legends off the bat, right? Even be that Riot, when they approach this, they could, maybe they'll target cards, maybe there's a scalpel, maybe they'll just ban Draven for a bit and ease them back in if they have to. Maybe they'll make a change to combat, because that is kind of a lot of the culprit of being able to push people away. Winning a combat and drawing a card seems to be really strong. So all that said, there was another question I asked when I was in Vegas, and that question was basically, if Chaos and Aurora were banned, so you couldn't play any purple legends or cards, you couldn't play Aurora, what would you bring? And the thing I loved about the response to that question was that pretty much everybody universally, they picked a different deck.
I'd probably take Azir.
Oh, I'd go back to Set for sure.
I'd probably play Victor.
Ducks.
Playing like a Fiora. I love Fiora's basically like Aurelia Light.
And a lot of it was because that they liked the deck. There was something about it that spoke to them beyond that it was powerful and broken. They wanted to go win a tournament because it felt like the most unfair thing. And so I think that, granted, maybe some of those answers change if that was really to happen and they were really to go for the throat. But I like the fact that there's a world where, like, if you take these things out, you get the top players playing decks that they love and not just decks to win it all. And I think that that is a better state. Like, that is a state where, like, regardless of best of prizing, you're getting that without best of prizing. I think there is some legs to the fact that, like, we do need bans, and it could create a more diverse metagame that Riftbounders enjoy. Because I can tell you right now, if you're going to your local skirmishes, you're going to be playing its Detonate Miracle Draven. I don't know how much fun that's going to be, you know, if you have like a good player there that is running it. Obviously, pilot matters a lot in this game. So with all that said, what do you think about the ban list? What do you think should be banned? What do you think Riot will ban? Do you think they should ban anything at all? Do you think that this whole conversation is overblown? Let me know down in the comments below. And remember, as always, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. And I'll catch you next episode.